It's 5 p.m. in Accra right now, and this bicycle is just as fast as this car or any car you see on the streets. But why? Just look around. All the cars are stuck in traffic, and this is Accra's biggest problem. But it gets even worse.
Traffic congestion.
Traffic congestion.
As congestion.
Traffic congestion at the central business district of Accra has become unbearable.
And it doesn't stop.
Parents are suffering. Workers are suffering.
And you go fit day traffic inside for you go fit day standard 4 hours.
We are spending Sunday to Sunday in traffic, and nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to care.
Every morning, thousands of Ghanaians stand at various bus stops, forming long queues trying to get to work. They have to endure the scorching sun. They have to run back and forth, fight their way to enter these very tiny buses. Look at this guy. This is what the average Ghanaian citizen has to go through every morning and once again every evening when they need to get home. They go through all this stress just to get into a car and endure the pain of another 2 hours of traffic. And as they sit and they sweat in traffic, the Ghanaian economy is crying too. We're throwing away billions of cedis on this problem. Let's break that down. Look at this Adenta to Accra stretch alone. We're losing 1.12 million cedis just based on the time people spend in traffic. If you stack that up over the course of a year, that's 291 million cedis we are losing just on this Adenta stretch alone. And then you see the smoke, the pollution that these cars are vomiting out on our roads. It is so bad that it could kill 3 million trees every year. No wonder heart and lung diseases are on a rise lately. Now, all this begs the question, how? How did Accra get so bad that people have to leap into these very tiny buses, sit ridiculously packed together for hours to get anywhere in the city? We spent a whole month digging deep into the trenches of history to figure out where exactly everything went wrong. From failed government experiments,
There's not going to be any SkyTrain, please. It's not possible.
to the introduction of trotros into the system, everything that has led to the situation now. But not just that, we tried to figure out what does a realistic solution actually look like for Accra. Do we need to build trains? Should we ban trotros from the city? Is it too late? Can we even fix this problem in the first place? Okay, so to find out the best solution to this problem, we need to first understand the deeper issue that is plaguing our transport system. And to understand that, we need to go back in time just a little bit and locate how we actually got into that deeper issue in the first place. It all starts with the British. We're in 1874 now, and the Ashantis have fought the biggest war in their history and lost. And so now they are under the British. The Gold Coast is officially a British colony. And one of the very first things that these British do is they move the capital of the country from Cape Coast here straight to Accra. And the goal is this: they want to extract as much minerals, as much resources from this country as possible. And the only way to do that is to be able to build a city close to the sea so they can export their stuff, but also a city where they can control the flow of these resources. But there's a problem. The resources are not all in Accra. You have the farming communities for the cocoa and the cola over here. The gold is also way over here. All the resources are dispersed across the country. So they build railways, they build roads to connect all these different places to Accra so they can pack the resources, ship them, and go and sell to the global market. Now in Accra too, someone needs to manage these resources when they come in. And if you look here, at this time, the Ga natives occupy the coast because they are fishing communities, they are fishermen and fisherwomen, and they are dispersed all over the coast. So this is what the British do. They come in and they build all their military and administrative buildings right in the center of the city where they do all their trade. Close enough to the sea that they can go out and ship the resources to the global market. Let's call this place, the center, the CBD, the Central Business District. And of course, they come into the city with their families, but they never stay close to the natives because they believe they'll give them diseases, they are dirty, and they just think they are better than them, right? So they design their own towns at Cantonment and Ridge here. And as you can imagine, they build roads to connect Cantonment and Ridge to the CBD that we've established. Now, the CBD itself, it keeps growing. They keep building all the important buildings that they need to stay in power and control things right in this area. It keeps growing to the point where the biggest market to date, Makola, appears at around 1927. Now, we can both agree that the CBD is the most important area in the country right now. Both the British and the Ghana natives, as well as every other person, comes here to do their business and their stuff, and they leave. And they stay that way for a short while until, oh look, a lot of people are moving into Accra now, and they are all settling in and around this area, the CBD. This makes sense though, because remember, in here you get access to everything, the businesses, the administration, Ghana's biggest market, everything. And so if I'm one of these guys staying in these rural parts of the country, and I hear that there's huge opportunity just a stone's throw away for me to make money and take care of my kids and my family, yeah, I'm packing my bags today and I'm moving in. And that is exactly what they did. They moved into Accra. Now, generally, people moving into your city is not a bad thing. It means you have more people to sell to, you can create more job opportunities, there's more innovation here and there. Like, look at Tokyo, for example. There are over 37 million people in that city. That's more than the population of Ghana, and yet the economy is thriving. They don't have to deal with this problem. It's the same with New York or any other big city you can think of. So, generally, urbanization, people moving into your city is not a bad thing. But in Accra, we have a big problem. Remember these people that came in and settled around the CBD? Well, it turns out they told their friends about it. And so more people start moving into Accra now because they are also chasing the same opportunity. Before long, this area starts to fill up. Now, there's no land for people to build on, and the rent prices of the apartments and the community houses are rising ridiculously. It is becoming very, very hard for someone who works at the CBD to live close to the CBD. So what do people do? They spread out. They start going to the places where they can actually afford the housing. And they keep moving further and further away from the CBD to do that. So at first they start still pretty close, maybe Dansoman here, these kind of places. But getting into the 1980s, you see rapid growth everywhere. People move up north to Medina to settle there. Others build out west to Kaswa, and others still to even the outskirts of Tema. They effectively build up their own cities, their own towns by accident. And that brings 10 billion and one problems. But that's not for me to explain. So let's call on Shaunn the builder.
Shaunn the builder, can we fix it? Shaunn the builder, yes we can.
Okay. Now, it is at this point where you start to see traces of our traffic problem. But let's go a little bit deeper, because ideally, when you are building a city, you need to make sure that the town and everyone living in there is self-sufficient. What that basically means is that they need to have access to the most important activity sites in the town. So think school, hospital, churches, banks, and all these places need to be close to each other too, so that they don't have to travel days to get there. So take, for example, Amma and her family here. It's a working wife, working husband, and their 5-year-old daughter. For this family, they need to have access to a high-end school, a hospital, a church, a bank, market, and of course, where mom and dad will work, their workplace. And in this well-planned town, all these places are at most 15 minutes away from each other. And that is heaven, because it means they never have to leave their town unless they really, really want to. Self-sufficient. Now, if we turn our attention back to our accidental towns, we realize that this basically doesn't exist, because their buildings were put up with no rigid urban plan in mind. So, if someone needs to go to the hospital, they come to the CBD. If someone needs to get to a good school, CBD, a government agency, even a tourist site, they come to the CBD. And most importantly, if someone needs to work for 5 days a week, every week, they need to come to the CBD. And so the next logical question is, how do they get here? How do they travel to the CBD? Well, in Accra, we don't have any reliable buses or trains to transport people. And most people don't own cars in the city as well. So guess who fills the gap? This is a trotro today, a small bus that can carry about 15 to 18 people at a go. If you want to sound bougie, they are called paratransit systems. Now, these buses don't have regular schedules, so the driver wakes up, they determine when they want to leave, where they want to leave, and sometimes even how much they charge for these trips. So no one really controls them, and that means they get to do some really nasty stuff on the road. They cause accidents, they pollute the environment with their very old cars, and they don't follow a lot of the traffic rules. But you can't fully hate trotros because even though they cause a lot of mayhem on Accra roads, they solve a very important problem, which is that people live in these areas, these faraway areas, and they want to get to the CBD. But are trotros the best way to solve that problem? Okay, look at this. This is Adenta, and at peak hour, 22,000 people need to travel from here to Accra Central, the CBD. Now, every trotro can carry a maximum of just about 18 people each. That means we will need 1,200 troskis to move all these people to the CBD in that hour alone. Now compare that with just a larger 50-seater bus. That would take 366 buses to move these people. Or let's just go ahead, let's just get a full-on train, right? That would take 44 trains, or perhaps more precisely, just 44 trips to transport these 22,000 people to the CBD. So you might ask, why don't we just buy buses or get a full-on railway system, a train system, and solve this problem once and for all? Well, Ghana actually tried, not once, not twice, multiple times. But each time, they forgot one important thing. Okay, let's come back to Earth. What have we seen so far? From big picture, we've seen a couple hundred years ago, British men came onto our land and they wanted money. So they stayed, they built roads to take all our resources away. But at the same time, while they were here, they built important buildings in this one area called CBD. And up to today, that's where a lot of Ghanaians go to work. But the Ghanaians don't live close to the CBD, they live far away. So every morning, they have to travel from where they are to the CBD back and forth. And unfortunately, there's no other way to get to the CBD than through roads in Accra. There's no other way. So for some people, they decide to buy cars. A lot of people buy cars so that they can get to CBD. Others buy motorcycles. A majority of the others also pick trotros to get to their location. With all this, when the clock strikes 5 p.m., everyone gets crammed on these same roads with no way out, and they sit in stupid traffic for hours. And it has been like this for over 30 years. So then the next question becomes, has Ghana ever tried to solve this problem?
Now, with respect to our part of the world, we've also tried, we've experimented. This was in 2008. It was during President Kufuor's time when Ghana received some very good support from the International Development Assistance, we call it ID, International Development Assistance. So the World Bank, for instance, committed some $45 million, the Global Environmental Facility, together with the French Agency for Development, also contributed some $7 million. Now the Ghanaian government was supposed to also provide some equity so that they will roll out not just a BRT, but it was a whole comprehensive composite approach. Now, what do I mean by that? You just don't put buses on the road and say, I've solved your problem overnight. We began with the BRT. Conversations were around how to revamp public transport generally. And so urban transport traffic units were established in, for instance, AMA. And the idea was that can we even reform the policies? Because until then, the mainstay for public transport has been the troxis, the informal paratransit operators. And so if you're bringing buses, what measures do we put in place such that we don't have conflicts emerging? So the initial thinking was that they were going to do a pilot from the CBD along the Graphic Road through, I think, Bichibi Lamte, through Kaneshi first traffic light, along the Buzia Odoko Highway, all the way to Kaswa. A lot of investments were made, but well, I don't really go so much into that, but that could not really live up to expectation. Initially, the other
This is what a BRT really is. A bus rapid transit system is really just a bus system, but faster. And the way it does that is by using something called dedicated right-of-ways, which is just a long way of saying that these buses have one or more lanes dedicated to themselves. It is for them, and no other cars can drive on those lanes, right? So you can imagine that these buses don't have to deal with the normal traffic congestion that everybody has to deal with, and they can get to their destinations faster with no serious delays. Now, this is not new at all. A lot of big cities have been using BRTs for a while now, like Curitiba in Brazil, Dakar in Senegal recently, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. Even our Nigerian brothers have had a system like that since 2008. And so BRTs are proving to help solve the traffic congestion in big cities. But Ghana has never had a functioning one. Matter of fact, we tried to claim one in 2016 with the introduction of the Ayalolo buses, but they forgot the most important part of a BRT. So they got knocked down to a KRT. But apart from that, our bus systems, the bus systems we've tried in Accra, have always faced a lot of pushback from the trotro drivers.
In terms of infrastructure, as I said, we had the infrastructure. Secondly, we had the finances.
Okay.
The international development assistance was there. How did we have to wait until November 2016, around elections, to roll out the first BRT, not on CBD to Kaswa, but now from the CBD to Pokwasi Amasaman? What happened? And it's not just about the infrastructure, but it's about the soft part, getting people's buy-in, getting the existing operators to agree that we are going to, or all of us are going to benefit. And for them, I couldn't really fault them so much. The idea is that they are in business to make money. Like some of them asked me when I did some interviews with them, you guys are saying that you're going to make GPRTU, ProTour, and GRTCC form companies. But you see, this bus can take, let's say, 80 passengers at a time, and it's just one driver. Now, that 80 passengers, if you were to spread them according to about 3 Sprinter Benz buses, so in effect, it means they're going to render 2 trotro drivers unemployed.
Right.
And again, if you're asking us to go and serve as feeders, you know the road condition in the feeder, in the rural settings, very bad. So every one trip that you return, you have to go back to the fitting shop. And so for them, it wasn't going to sell.
Okay, so using a bus system is clearly not that straightforward. It has a lot of issues, and we'll get to how we solve it for Accra in a second. But what about trains?
So back to the colonial legacy. The idea, the British colonial system, the bureaucracy didn't build rail lines for commuters, for passenger movement. It was targeting resource-endowed locations. So you go to Prestia, Honey Valley, you go to Western region generally, where you have the bauxite and the other minerals, the gold and everything. And those were the locations that they served with trains to link those resources to Takoradi port.
And Takoradi Harbour was built at last,
which was commissioned in 1928. And the idea was that we wanted to ferry out the cargo to the international market. The interest on passenger movement wasn't the policy. So that's it. So what that means is that in terms of rail infrastructure, we don't even have a very extensive one. Years ago, we used to have over 900 kilometers of rail network. But what happened? It's actually run down, right? And so the infrastructure for rail is actually not there. And the focus was not so much for passenger movement. And so the question would be, how do we proceed?
Okay, so the railways were built to just extract the minerals and take them out. But that is not actually the only role that Ghana has tried.
There were a number of conversations around trying to bring in the SkyTrain project. I'm not sure if you heard about that. So this was in 2019. The government of Ghana had some MOU signed with some partners. And in 2020, they showed a prototype of that project. We're going to have trains that would actually run in the sky. In our case, ask me where we came, how far we've come. And for that, I'll refer you to the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. I'm not sure if you've heard that currently the CEO of that fund and the board chair are currently under BNI investigations for, yes, it was a good project, but the money, we are told, allegedly never ended where it was supposed to be. And so we don't have the infrastructure. There are very good plans. It's not that Ghana lacks the plans and the strategies, but somehow we always seem to get it wrong. How is that such a good, noble idea? And I was very excited about that, the Accra SkyTrain project. But unfortunately, the money, well, if you ask the BNI, they'll be the right thing to tell, I don't know.
Right. Okay, we have issues. You probably knew that before you entered the video. The actual question is, how do we get out of this? How do we solve this problem? And thankfully, I do have some good answers. It turns out using the buses are the best way to go for Accra, but this time with a BRT system.
Because the BRT has become, if like, a must-have solution. The World Bank actually pushes that, and most of the poorer countries have been able to implement that, because even though it's a bit expensive, it is less expensive compared to the rail systems as we have them.
The reason why a lot of big cities are using BRTs now is that they just work, right? It combines the speed and the capacity of a light rail with the flexibility and the simplicity, and more importantly, the lower cost of a bus system. So, how will this work for Accra? First, you need a lane for your buses, and only your buses. This is the most important part of a BRT. Because look at this. With dedicated buses, it means the buses don't have to deal with the typical congestion on the streets. So they'll make their trips way faster. But also, it means that we can accurately predict the time it will take from Adenta to Accra, for example, every single time. Which also means that if Kofi has a meeting at 10 a.m. at Accra Central, he can decide to relax, walk slowly to the bus stop at 9 a.m. and still have full assurance that he'll get there in time for his meeting because the buses are reliable. But apart from the bus stations and the lanes and all the infrastructure you have to build, which is quite a number of them, you need very good systems. A control center that monitors all the operations on the ground. So the operators can track all the buses in real time. They know where each of them is and the routes they are traveling on with GPS. And they can solve any issues on the road as they arise. Now the passengers, Kofi and his gang, also need to know some of this information too. Kofi needs to know when the bus will arrive, where the bus is going, etc., etc. And because everybody uses smartphones nowadays, this is not a problem. You can hire the young Ghanaian developers to build software, build an app that ties directly into the control center so that the passengers can get information in real time. How will Kofi pay? Now this is very important because imagine everybody that wants to enter the bus has to stand at the gate and give cash, and then there's someone physically there who's looking for change in their bag and giving it back. No, that wouldn't work. It will cause too many delays. And so for a BRT system, all the payment is done off board before boarding the bus, usually at a station. So for some cities like Dakar in Senegal, they use this turnstile control system. You pass through the gate, your ticket is scanned, verified, and you go. For Accra, you can integrate it with the app that you've already built, and then people can pay with their Momo or their bank straight away. And then what you see is that there's no rush, there's no giddy to try and enter the buses. Now, what do we do about the trotro drivers? Let's get this out of the way. You can't completely ban trotros in the city. They fill too many gaps and travel to too many places to do that. But at the same time, you can't allow them to run on the bus lanes because they'll cause too many delays. They stop every 2 seconds, for God's sakes. So this is what you do, and we've actually solved this. In 2008, when the first bus system was being planned, they wanted to use something called the trunk and feeder system. And it's the same thing you have to do today, but just a little bit better. This is how it works. Let's go back to Kofi. Kofi has to make his Adenta to Accra trip this morning. But the problem is he actually doesn't live close to Adenta bus stop. He lives here at Oyibi, and so he can't just walk there and go and pick the bus. It's too far away. In the trunk and feeder system, the BRT doesn't go to these remote areas, these smaller enclaves around. It is built on the roads that most of these people are trying to get to, the main roads that carry the most people, and that becomes the trunk. So, in this system, the trotros will run in these areas, fetch the people from Abokobi and Oyibi and all that, and feed them to the trunk, bring them to the main Adenta station or Adenta bus stop. And then from there, the BRT will carry them quickly and get them to the CBD. You can see the same thing happening here too, right? The trotros fetch from the enclaves around Kaswa to the main Kaswa station, and then from there, straight to the CBD. Now, let's not live in paradise. This means that a lot of the trotro drivers will lose a chunk of their business, and they won't be happy. Other cities in Africa face the same issue too. In Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, their trotros are called daladales, and when they built their BRT, they faced a lot of pushback from the operators. How did they solve it? Well, they are still trying to solve it, but here are a few things that they did. In Tanzania, they have an institution called Sumatra that gives licenses to these daladala operators on which routes they can operate on. So when they build the BRTs, they stop renewing the licenses of these drivers, and then those drivers reroute to add to the feeder system that we talked about. Or they believe in some cases that some of these daladala drivers will withdraw from the public transport business and invest somewhere else. Apart from that, they are trying to work closely with the daladala operators so that they establish as entities, right? So you have more than one car under one entity so that it will be easier to work with them and integrate them into the public transit system. In Dakar, Senegal, they have committed to hiring 75% of their drivers for the BRTs from the paratransit associations. Now, the truth is, in all the research that we did, we couldn't find a universal answer to integrating the paratransit operators with the formal transit system. Every city's landscape and like culture and politics is different, right? So it requires different solutions. But what we did find is that it is better to find a multimodal integration with these operators rather than framing them as competitors. Utilize the trotros advantage to be flexible and enter these smaller places to build a comprehensive system. But most critically, involve the associations. In Ghana or Accra, that might be the GPRTU. Involve them in all the conversations and the plannings, because that builds trust. Without that, they will stop you from a smooth transition and the whole thing won't work. Now, it is not going to be easy. This is people's livelihoods we're talking about. Some people have been drivers for over 50 years. It is not going to be easy. But
If you're pregnant, if you are a person with disability, and you have to struggle for the limited space in the existing trotros with able-bodied men, then you appreciate that the question shouldn't be about feasibility. It's about, it has to be done, and it should have been done years ago.
Okay, get it aligned. Yes. Okay, so while making this video, we got news that the government has bought 129 seater buses for Accra. Now, at this point, we don't know how these buses are going to run, the system they are going to use. But if there's one thing I can promise you, it is this. Without the things we've talked about today, the dedicated links, the fast and easy payment options, the systems and servicing and so on, it is going to fail. Just like how the Metro Mass and the Alulu and all those other services have. Because you see, acquiring the buses, getting the buses is the easiest part. Can you build the systems to actually sustain them and make them the better option for citizens? That is the question that you need to answer. And if it isn't answered, then the problem is only going to get worse. Anyway, let's get back to the video. 1, 3, 2, 1. So far, all the solutions we've seen is on land. The rails and the trains and all those, land. Even the BRTs we're advocating for is on land. But what if the answer is to use water?
Yesterday, I sat in Hatcho traffic for 2.5 hours and thought, if we really want to reduce congestion, especially during rush hour, we don't just need more roads, we need another way to move people. So what if we converted this storm drain into a transport channel like they have in Venice or in Thailand? Could that work? What would it look like? And how could it compare to roads, trains, or buses? Let's get into it.
Action.
Accra's traffic problem isn't just that there are too many cars. It's that we rely almost entirely on roads, and those roads, they are full. So like many African cities, what if, instead of seeing them as only waste channels, we upgraded parts of them into managed canal-like transport routes? Not everywhere, not all at once. We start small. A stretch like this one in Dome is perfect because it already sits inside major drainage and flood control plans. Another one could be the Odao-Kole stretch, also because they move through some of the busiest movement corridors in Accra. And you know, if we can make this work, a single modest pilot of even this one in Dome could move an extra 4,000 people a day. It's not replacing trotros or buses, though. It's supporting them. So think of it as opening a new lane, but on water. Now this is the part of the video where I can hear you say, Amma, this all sounds nice, but how is it practical? You can't just drop some boats in here and call it innovation. I agree. You have to prepare the corridor. Sanitation, waste management, and stormwater interception are a must to get it right, because if you do, you're actually also solving for flooding and drainage in the city as well. To make it work, there are 5 main steps: dredge, trash traps, cleaning, commuter stops, and boats. So let's break down the plan. Step 1, you dredge and desilt the channel so that water flows properly again, because no flow means no transport. Step 2, stop the trash before it arrives. You install trash traps and floating barriers upstream so the plastic and waste don't keep coming in. And daily removal, no excuses. Step 3, clean and stabilize the water. Treat hotspots, reduce stagnation, and improve flow. That means less smell, less mosquitoes on a corridor that people can actually use. Step 4, you build simple commuter stops, not fancy terminals. Safe, well-lit, clean. If you can board like a trotro, you'll use it. Step 5, use the right boats. Small, shallow draft commuter boats, high frequency, reliable, boring, very effective. And here's the truth. The transport part is actually the easy part. The real project is cleaning, managing, and stabilizing the corridor. But if you can do that, you are turning one of Accra's most neglected spaces into working infrastructure. And if it works, you replicate it across other corridors, and suddenly we're moving tens of thousands of people daily. It's so exciting! So one question is about water. Accra has 2 seasons, dry season and rainy season. In the dry season, water levels are low. In the rainy season, it can become like a flood channel. So the design must take this into account. That's why I said earlier, this has to be a managed system, not a natural one. A managed system means that we control the way the water behaves. We don't leave it a chance. During dry periods, simple gates and retention points hold enough water to keep boats moving. During heavy rains, that same system releases flow gradually to prevent dangerous currents. This is exactly how Netherlands regulates canals and Bangkok keeps boats moving in a flood-prone city. By managing levels, by managing depth through dredging, and then by managing conditions when they get extreme. So now with all this said, how does this canal idea compare to trains, BRT, and roads? Let's talk cost per kilometer, because that's the best idea you can get for scale. A typical asphalt road can cost $300,000 to $1 million per kilometer. Of course, that depends on drainage, a few of the construction constraints. A BRT system, that can cost between $2 and $10 million per kilometer. That includes dedicated bus lanes, stations, and buses. Now trains, light rail, $20 to $60 million per kilometer, and a metro heavy rail, about $50 to $150 million per kilometer. Now compare that to this, a canal-style transport system that is using the storm drains that already exist, $1 million to $5 million per kilometer. And that's because there's no land acquisition, there's no full construction of a corridor, and it already overlaps with drainage and flood control investments. So here's the advantage of this idea. Roads are full, trains are expensive, buses are stuck in traffic. But this idea? It costs less to scale, it uses less space, and it's a really faster test. So the real question is this worth testing? I think so. What do you think?
In making this video, probably the most interesting and somewhat annoying thing to me really was finding out that all the research and the plans and the solutions that we found had already been thought about by people, sometimes by the government itself. And so the problem isn't that Ghana lacks solutions or plans or ideas to solve the problem. No, it's that the people who have the power, they lack the political will to do so. Look at a BRT, for example. It takes well over 4 years to implement it. And Ghana's election cycle is 4 years. And so for each of these two political parties that come in power, they don't want to invest in it because they might leave office and someone else will take credit for their work. And that's the reality we are living in, where two political parties are squabbling for credit rather than putting measures in place to solve the issues of the citizens of the country. That is where we are. I can only hope, and we can only hope, that as more light is being shed on a topic, as more people understand what the problem is and what it takes to actually solve it, then we will demand more accountability from these people in power so that they fix the problem. Because we can't go on living like this. We can't keep waking up at 4:30, staying in traffic for 2 hours to get to work, and repeat the same cycle in the evening, and do that for 5 days in a week. It is ridiculous. But humor me for a bit. Let's imagine 5 years from now, Ghana has not only made a decision to solve the Accra transport system, but we actually have boots on the ground. We've made the dedicated bus lanes for the BRT. We are dredging the canal so we can use it for transport. In that Accra, parents wouldn't have to wake their kids up at 4 a.m. every day just to beat unnecessary traffic. In that Accra, going out to meet a friend for a meal, for fufu saf, will not feel like a chore. I want to live in that Accra, but it starts with you and me being aware and understanding the scope of this problem and keeping these politicians accountable. I don't know how exactly we do that, but talking about it is the start. See you in 5 years. These videos take countless hours to make, and for this particular one, I think over 20 people touched it some way, somehow. And so the only free thing that we would ask you to do for us is to hit the subscribe button. That goes a long way to support us, but also helps us make this thing better, and helps us make this thing bigger, and helps us do more detailed, in-depth, detailed topics about various stuff. So please do that, and that's our promise to you, to make this thing better. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.